Let's get started with no further ado. I'm super excited, super pumped to be interviewing the very amazing Maja Wolnik, who is the sassy CEO and brand strategist of Maja Creative. And she is sharing with us the 5 mistakes that you can make with brand strategy that actually costs your business time and money. How are you going, Maja?
Good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here. Why don't you just give us a little bit of a background of what you do over at Maja Creative before we jump into that?
Sure. Okay, so I run Maja Creative, which is a branding and graphic design studio.
Yep.
Yes, I've been in this industry for about 15 years, but been in business on my own for almost 5. So we really specialize in branding, brand strategy, and brand management.
Perfect. And I guess you see a lot of bad brands out there.
I do, and it does hurt my eyes a little bit.
Yeah, Maja and I always joke about this. So she's one of the amazing women who is in my Sassy CEO collective. So we get to chat a lot, and we always talk about brands and brands hurting our eyes. And I guess it's okay when you're starting out. You just have to start out and do what you can, right? I was saying that only this week. You just start out with what you can. Obviously, we can be really conscious of budget, and we just want to get our brand and our message out there so that we can start getting some customers. But as we streamline our business and we start to look to, I guess, have a better market presence and to grow our brand beyond just, maybe having a few customers here and there, it's something that we really need to start looking for and maybe having actually within our plan to budget for and start to look at it more strategically. Thoughts?
Yes, that's spot on actually. And I think, a lot of my clients that do really well with branding is the ones that have, tested things out for themselves for at least a year. So when they come to me, they sort of really start getting a picture of like who their dream clients are, what's worked for them, what isn't working. It's a little bit harder to get that happening from the get-go, but once you've sort of been in business for a little while, you can start paint a better picture.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to answer this question, but Sissel's asked the question, is there any major brands that hurt your eyes?
Oh gosh. To be honest, I can't think of any off the top of my head.
You can be very PC about this.
I might have to have a think about it and maybe come back.
Okay. Well, we might come back to that one, Sissel. So let's get started then. So what's the first thing that we can make as business owners that costs us time and money?
So the first thing I think is really understanding your target market. And I say that sort of loosely because you really just need to understand, who your tribe is. And really, like for me, it's really, a lot of people say, oh, I know who my clients are. They just, that they need this product or they need that service and they're male or female. And that's sort of not really enough to truly build a brand. For me, I have to try and get my clients to jump into the heads and hearts of their customers and really understand their needs. So, for instance, it's more about, what is the ultimate goal? What does your client want from your business, from your product, from your category, and overall, psychologically, what are their basic wants and needs? So, in essence, your brand sort of has to really try and address that. And the best way to do that is to profile your clients. And when it comes to sort of, I guess, business to business as well, I always ask my clients, like, who is the actual person that you're speaking to? So a good example of that is a client of mine who has a cleaning business. They clean serviced offices. So you would think that, businesses and business owners would be their ideal market. But in actual fact, it's the office manager that they have to deal with and ultimately sell to, because the business owner is too busy to handle that. So that person happens to be female most of the time. She would have a different set of criteria than an actual business owner themselves would. So it's just trying to really understand who your customer is on a very deep level.
Yes, because we often talk about going into that, that niche and then the target customer, and we're talking about the avatar. And, I know, I get a lot of clients to really delve deep into thinking about that, but it sounds like this is just like next level of psychological profiling of, who's actually doing the buying here.
That's right. And you sort of have to look at, you know, what words would you use to describe them, because then you can really understand what they're feeling and thinking. So, you know, it depends on your business, it depends on your product, but are they happy? Are they sad? Are they frustrated? Are they, you know, if you're healing people, are they hurting? So, you know, those words, those descriptive words really help with your marketing as well.
And so when you do that sort of stuff, does that then actually start to impact, you know, from a designer's point of view, the types of colors you might use or the fonts? Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's right. It helps with the messaging, and it helps you to understand your clients and I guess, you know, mirror what they need. So if they're feeling stressed out most of the time, you probably don't want to have branding that will aggravate that situation.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So, you know, the set of colors and fonts and things that will kind of relate to that based on what you want to achieve with them. It's answering their goals and really understanding who they are and what they need from you.
Awesome. Love it. Okay, number two.
Number two, I think some of the biggest mistakes I see is people following trends. You know,
like fashion.
Like fashion, yeah. There's trends in graphic design and they come and go. But really the idea is to build a brand that will stand the test of time. I try and create, and this is more sort of in relation to your logo, I try and create logos that are timeless, because you can dress up branding and you can stay relevant by working maybe sometimes like in campaigns. Like you can have a different look every year or every quarter, or have a different look for a specific product that you're creating. But if you just kind of create something that's on trend at the moment, like your brand's not gonna stand the test of time. So yeah, and I sort of see people following trends that are similar in the category they're in as well. And what happens then is it becomes confusing because you're not really different than anyone else in your target market, in your marketplace. So yeah, it's a tricky one because we all want to be seen as relevant and on trend.
So can you give us an example of a trend that you've seen, say, that's getting used to death at the moment?
Yes, a lot of the sort of real glittery kind of look, you know, really polished photos of people like having the most cleanest, beautiful desk with flowers and, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I see that everywhere, and I don't know.
So it doesn't make you stand apart.
That's right. Yeah. Like it was brilliant for the person who did it first because it was so beautiful. But now it's just kind of like another sort of glossy brand kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sort of in the cafe space, everyone sort of uses, you know, natural coloured craft paper and handwritten writing because it's a, you know, it's cafe. But you don't
you don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all,
because I always say also, like, even from my perspective, when I'm coaching and working with people, I always almost look at what's happening and what's working really well in other industries, like industries that you might not even think would apply to your industry, and do what works well over there, because then within your own marketplace, you're you know, going to be this just trendsetter and just, you know, set yourself apart, because we're constantly looking for different ways to set ourselves apart. Otherwise you just become a commodity and you're haggling on price all the time.
Exactly. And I say that too, like I always look for inspiration outside of the category that you're in, you know, other industries. That's why I try and have a lot of different clients from different industries. So it does open up my world and just, you know, inspiration from other things, from art, from fashion, from interior design. You can just find, you know, I really like looking for inspiration in nature. So just really trying to be, you know, you don't always have to be completely different, but that's the idea, that you just don't look same as everybody else.
Perfect. Love it. Number three,
I guess, is inconsistent branding. So what I see a lot is, you know, people that are starting out sort of are testing maybe a couple of different styles, not realizing that you need to have a uniform look and feel to your branding. So they might you know, have one font on this piece of content and then have a different font or a different color scheme on their website, and then something completely different for the social media, and then something else for the business card. And what happens is the way that our brains operate is that we create memories by kind of like the simplest way I can explain is that we open up folders in our brains for different things. That's how we create memories. So you know, for your brand, there would be a Sassy CEO Paula Bailey folder.
Yeah.
Every time someone experiences something with your brand, if it's similar, if the message is similar, if the color scheme is similar, if the content is similar, they would actually drop that into that folder.
Yeah.
But if every week it was completely different, your brain starts to open up a different folder.
And they don't join the dots together. Yeah, that's really interesting, because there's like, I mean, there's so much trend, say in Facebook advertising, where we're you know, promoting certain pieces of content to then build audiences to retarget, you know, certain material to, rather than just driving cold traffic to, say, an opt-in. So that's sort of the same thing. And if you're taking the time to do that and you're spending money on doing that, then you know, you want to be dropping stuff into the same folder in someone's brain so that they're actually joining the dots.
Yeah, that's
because
right.
then additionally, people need to see you X amount of times online before they actually take action.
Well, that's how it works. So then when they're ready to make a decision, whether that's, you know, clicking on that button to purchase from you, or, you know, visiting your store, or picking up the phone to call you, your brain kind of runs through all the different messages about that brand, all those memories.
Yeah.
And like, we don't realize it, it's instantaneous. But if it's not clear, if the message is not clear, they don't know, you know, what brand it is. And it's also like just, you know, building that familiarity. So, you know, when we go to McDonald's, if you're all over the world, wherever you go, it's going to be the same experience. Or if
so it's building trust as well. Yeah,
that's right. So you have to build trust, and you have to do that through a lot of repetition. And if, you know, your brand might be like, let's have a different font on every single piece of content, but I would try and stick it to, you know, choose 10 and just repeat those, and like be creative in that way. But then that's your style, that every time you do something, it's completely creative, but still
within
have
those 10 fonts though.
Yeah, that's right.
You find that happens a lot when people are trying to do everything themselves. You know, you've got programs like Canva, and I guess if you're not necessarily, you know, this is where I always talk about getting people to do the things that you're not necessarily, like, stay in your genius. And if, you know, if you don't have the eye for it, or it's not really your skill set, you know, I'm seeing a lot of people use amazing tools like Canva, and because they don't know, you don't know what you don't know, right? And so they're just creating whatever they feel like on that day. Because I know when I first started playing around with this stuff, it's like, oh, I'm going to play with this today. And you just created what you thought looked pretty with no, I guess, thought to what could be a consistent brand story for your business. It's only as you start to grow up a little bit and realize that this sort of stuff is really important to the end game, that you start to change it out. Well,
that's actually the next point, is that, you know, people are doing it themselves. Like I always say, don't do it yourself.
Yeah.
It doesn't, you know, I mean, I'm biased because I'm in this industry, but it doesn't make sense to me. Like, when you need legal advice, you're going to go see a lawyer. If you have a toothache, you're going to go see a dentist. So I think because we've all grown up as children and did a bit of drawing, we feel like we can handle the graphic design. And yes, there's all these amazing apps coming out now where you can kind of turn your hand to it. But, you know, branding and graphic design is a skill that's taught in universities, and you've got to have, you know, thousands of hours of experience to know what works and what doesn't, and it's not visible to the general eye on why things work and why things don't. So that's why you'll often see that things are, you know, you might use those apps, but they just don't look quite right, and it's because you actually have to manipulate every single little letter for things to look exceptionally well. And I find that people that do it themselves, like, they're just wasting so much time, because, you know, it's not necessarily your zone of genius. Like, you could be spending time doing something else than trying to, you know, to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, everyone has a different budget. So, you know, I would say that the best thing you can probably do is at least get a strategy in place. You know, have some sort of direction of what your brand stands for and what you want to do with it, and then start to develop a style around that. And if you have to do it yourself, do it for as long as you can, but then invest, because it is an investment.
And that is the next point, isn't it? Having the strategy.
Yeah,
that leads in. That was very well done. Yeah. Well, because I mean, I'm big, obviously, on strategy, because all I do is talk about, strategic planning. And I guess the way that I talk about strategy is probably a little bit different to how you're talking about strategy, because I'm a big believer in, it doesn't matter what strategy you have, if your mindset's not quite right, or you've got beliefs about why you're going to fail or why you're scared of success, and a lot of things can kind of unravel from that. But having great strategy, as well as being in the right headspace to lead a great business, are kind of like a match made in heaven. So tell us a little bit more about what you mean by having no strategy.
Well, I guess with brand strategy, it's more just developing the personality of your brand. Like, what does your brand stand for? So with my clients, I look at their values, making sure that we understand what your business really stands for and that it's aligned with your business objectives. Developing things like your tone of voice and, your brand personality. And for me, I work with brand archetypes, which is, a whole other topic that I could spend hours
talking. We might have to do another. That's awesome. I can't wait. We might actually do another live on that, because that's super interesting.
Yeah, so some of the most leading brands in the world align themselves with the brand archetype, which means it's like you humanize your brand. So what that means is that people that you're trying to appeal to, they can relate to you, and it just gives you a structure on like what your brand is. And for business owners, it's usually very closely aligned with their own personalities. So it's just having, it's just putting a stake in the sand, or I don't know what the expression is, but just
drawing a line in the sand.
Yeah, drawing a line in the sand, saying like, this is who we are, this is how we communicate, this is our voice. These are the clients that we want to go for. This is what we serve them. This is how we serve them. This is what we do. And having that as a document that you can then pass on to, your web developers, your copywriters, even your team members. So when you have new staff joining, you can give them something that they can definitely have a flick through and completely understand, what is your brand for.
That's leading into your last point, I think, with the having that branding kit. Tell us a little bit more about what's involved with that.
Hi, amazing one. I hope you're loving this video. If it's vibing with you and feels like it's the right fit for you, then please come join us over in our free Facebook group. I'd love to get to know more about you and your business really soon.